Hello and welcome to my channel. So this is my first chance to record any videos at all this summer, and if you hear my daughter in the background, she's fine. She's supposed to be taking a nap, but she will be getting an award for most talkative, I'm assuming, when she gets to school. So if you hear in the background, it is what it is. She's fine, no worries. So we have a different setup today. I'm going to do a technology tutorial. I'm going to do a series of them. Today we're going to start out with Google Sheets, because I got a question specifically about how I created my lesson planning template. So I'm just going to show you. We're not going to gatekeep here. I enjoy using Google Sheets. I feel like I think in sheets, like that's just how my mind works, like how my mind is organized. If there's a visual, it would look like Google Sheets. So I'm going to show you some basic things about using Google Sheets, but nothing crazy. I did get a question about how to program a sheet so that it would auto-populate dates. I am not your person for that. That is coding. I do not know coding. I know how to work my way around a Google Sheet. If you want more in-depth information, I have two recommendations. My friend Lisa from Hello Algebra, she has a course, and then my other friend Steve has a course as well. I'm going to link whatever I can find for them below. I follow them both on Instagram. If they have websites, I will link that. The reason that I recommend both of them is that they each have a course on using Google Sheets. So if you're wondering, how do I do this? And you want to do something way more advanced than what I'm sharing today, go to them. They're the experts. Do like a picture-in-picture thing as I'm going through this, and didn't realize my picture would not stay up on top. So we're going to do like this sideways split thing here. We're going to go with it. So first of all, my favorite trick, anytime you want to open up anything in Google, you're going to type in what it is, in this case, Sheets. Then we do .new, we hit enter, and then we get a brand new Google Sheet document to work with. So first thing you want to do is obviously title it, but it's just for a video, so I'm going to delete it later. So we're just going to call it video for right now. It doesn't really matter, but you want to give it a name so you know what it is. You can find it easily. You want to put it into a folder so that it's saved exactly where you need it. Before you get to the sheet though, I strongly suggest having an idea of how you want to set up your Google Sheet. And Google Sheets are really great for things like forms, anything you want organized a certain way. So the one example that I was using was a lesson plans document. And the way I have mine set up is across the top row is just the different parts of the lesson plan that we need. So like your objectives or whatever. And then down the side, because I wanted to use it for a full week, we have like all the dates, just all the different dates you can need. That's basically it. So when I got that question, like, how do you set it up? I'm like, you just type into the box like what you need, and then you can put in anything else you need into these boxes. That's it in a nutshell. Some other things to know about Google Sheets: you can resize the rows and the columns. So if you click resize, it could go fit to data, but it's gonna adjust to however much text appears in that box. So I like to have it stay at a certain width. It says that the default is 120. Let's say we make it 200, and now it's just a wider column. You can do the same thing with your rows. Let's say I want this row to be, actually, with the rows, it makes more sense to fit it to the data, because if you want more text in there and we want it to wrap, you want your rows to adjust according to the text. So if it's something like a lesson planning document, I would keep it fit to data. But if you want it to be a certain height, then you can change the height that way as well. And of course you can drag these around, but you're ending up with something random. And if you want to keep it uniform, you can make them all the same. The other option you have, you can highlight a bunch of these and then drag them around, and now they are all the same, but it's some random arbitrary width. It doesn't matter necessarily, it just depends on what you want and what you want to do there. One of my favorite things to do is, if I go into view, is to freeze the rows and the columns. And I do this to other people's documents all the time. Our school had us put in a curriculum information into a giant Google sheet, and I ended up taking like the sheet I was working on and I froze the top row and I froze the first column. And what that does is whatever I have in here, I'm just going to type in some gibberish. So when you have your rows and columns frozen, when I scroll down, I'm still going to see what's in that top row. And if I scroll side to side, I'm still going to see what was in that first column. So they're not going to disappear, because when we don't have all of that done, it's just really obnoxious because you can scroll and scroll and scroll for days and lose some of the information that you want to be able to see at the same time. So freezing rows and columns is a huge help. I can't get back to where I was. So there is that. Another thing that's important to know about is just your basic stuff going on up here. You can change your font. You can change the size of the font. We can bold, we can italicize, you can strike through. If you wanted to underline some text, however, you would have to use your keyboard, like Command U or Control U on a PC. So you can underline. What you cannot do, which is really aggravating, is bullets. So Google, if you could make it so we could add our own bullets into Google Sheets, that would be amazing. Typically, if I want to bullet my text, I'll just put like a little dash in front of it. Now, if you want to have text that's on multiple lines, you can't just hit enter. It's going to take you to the next cell. But if you want multiple lines in one cell, you're going to hit Control or Command and then enter. Then you can add a new line of text. One thing that I know is particularly obnoxious is if you have a lot of text that goes on and on. It kind of just goes over into the next cell. So if I go to put text in this cell, now it's cutting off what was in this cell here and I can't see it all at once. So if you want to fix that, it is up here in the top. You're going to go to this icon right here, your text wrapping. It gives you some options. Overflow is usually what a Google Sheet is set up with. And if you want the text to wrap, you're going to click here. And now the text wraps, meaning when it hits the end of the cell, it's going to go to the next line instead of doing the overflow. Our other option there is to clip it, which looks like that. It just kind of stops right there. Typically, though, we'd like to have text wrap. So one trick I like to use is this button right up here in the corner between the A and the 1. If you click that, you're highlighting the entire sheet. And when you do that, you can decide to have the text wrap for the entire sheet. But I will warn you, it seems to just kind of turn itself off sometimes. Not that it'll stop wrapping the text, but like if you copy and paste from somewhere else, typically at some point I have to go back and like rewrap the text again. I don't know what that's about. I guess it's just the format of what I'm pasting in. It doesn't like it, and it'll go back into that overflow that we saw before. So text wrapping is one of your friends if you'd like to have that happening for you. Now also up here, you can change your text color. You can change the fill color. If you love rainbow order like I do, you can do that. I hate the colors that they give you standard on Google, so I usually end up using my own colors that I don't have programmed in here. So I'm going to just leave those alone, but you can change the color. I did show in one previous video, and I will link it below, not response validation, that's Google Forms. It was to have the cell change color when students put in different answers. Like if their answer is right, it turned green. If you're looking for that, I do have a video for how to do that and make it very basic. If you want to know how to do it and make it easier for students not to be able to go back and try to figure out how to cheat, definitely check out Lisa and Steve because they'll have that information for you. The next thing we have is borders. So if you click here, you can get some different options. You can have just the outside. You can get all the borders. You can change the color of your borders, and you can change the width of your borders. So if you want something specific going on with your borders, you can do that. Sometimes I like to have just certain parts of it, like, let me go back to this being normal. Sometimes I just want like a line border. You can do it that way as well. but all of your border options are right here. Another thing that you can do is merge cells. So if you want to merge cells, you have to click and drag to highlight them, and then this pops up right here. You also get some options here. You can merge all, which is typically what I just go for, but they do say you could merge vertically or horizontally. Doesn't quite matter. And this is really good for if you want like an overall heading for what you're looking at. So merging, you can also unmerge, and you could merge in a column, or you could just merge a block. It's whatever you need. So it depends on what you're going for with your Google Sheet, but that option is there as well. That's really good for giving you a little bit more flexibility in how the different parts of your sheet are formatted. And then you have your text alignment if you want it left, center, or right justified. And then this is one of my favorites here. This is going to align your text to being the top, middle, or bottom of a cell. So a lot of the times I like to have it aligned to the top. Again, if I want that for my whole sheet, I'm going to click this box up here and then click top vertical alignment for everything. But again, it's just whatever you need for whatever it is that you're doing. Text rotation is super helpful. So like I said, with my lesson planning, I have the dates going along the side here, and to have them all sideways, I'm using the text rotation. They have really helpful diagrams so you can see how it's being laid out. You click and then it's gonna rotate your text. Now these two rows, you can see that they've expanded because we never played with them, so they're still on like fit to data. This row, I don't know what its problem is because it is on fit to data. It's not specified, so I don't know why, but you can also just click and drag here to resize for whatever you want, and then you could also play with the alignment. You can center everything. And then the last thing to really take note of is the linking. So you can insert a link. What's tricky that I do with like my scope and sequence is I'll have multiple links because I link to all my activities that are in Google somewhere. So you have to highlight the text. You can use this button here or Command K. It'll give you some different things. Let's say I'm gonna choose random things in my Google Drive right now. It just gets a little bit weird sometimes when you have multiple links in a cell, because what it kind of tends to do is make the entire cell a link on its own. So me just like clicking here, it's showing me the first link, but then it also has the second link here. So just be aware of that. What's also really cool is if you have multiple sheets, you could also just have a link that goes to the other sheet in your Google Sheet. It's weird because like the whole thing is called Sheets, but then each individual piece is also called a sheet. Why it's not giving me, there we go, there's sheet 2. So you could just have a link that takes you right to sheet 2, which is still here. This is one of my favorite features about Google Sheets, is that you can have multiple things all in one file, and that's why I love using it specifically for lesson planning, because I keep every week in its own sheet. And another fun feature is that if you are trying to number something and you go to this dot right here and you click and drag, it will auto-populate the next several numbers. If you have just a single number, it will repeat the number though. But if you give it like a pattern, we highlight there, click and drag, it will continue the pattern. So let's give it something more complicated like 1 3 5, and then it will continue just giving you the odd numbers. So that's a really cool feature if you needed that for something. Another thing that you can do is add in checkboxes. So if you go to insert, they added this semi recently. You can add in your own checkboxes, so it'll check that off for you, which is really cool. And then another one that they've made really easy lately is a drop down. So if you want to create a drop down, you can have it do different colors for different things. I don't even know what to do right now. So it's going to create that drop down. You click on the arrow and you can make it yes or no. If you if you want to get rid of it, if you backspace on the cell, oh, it did not like that. If you put an answer in and you want to get rid of it, you can backspace and that'll clear that out. And just like with the numbers and the checkboxes, if you click and drag down, it's going to put that drop down menu in for everything. So this was something that was really complicated before, and they made it just so much easier. So it's really exciting. And then if for some reason you wanted to include an image, you can go to insert and then image. You get two options, either image in cell or image over cells. If you click image in cell, whatever I put in there, and I don't have an image on my desktop to just like grab real quick for that, but whatever image you put in there is going to fit inside that teeny tiny cell, and you'd have to resize the cell to see the full image. If you click instead the image over the cells, it's going to put the image in on top of the cells. That way you can kind of click and drag it, and it would be whatever size it was, and I believe you could resize it. It wouldn't be like stuck to the dimensions of the cell. And this feature I've not played with. You can see it says that it is new, but there's also a timeline option. That's really cool. If you love the way that you have a certain sheet set up, you can duplicate it and then have it over again. Actually, I just had an idea. Let's make a quick like assignments checker. So we'd have, your different student names. So this is just like a review of everything that we've done. I'm going to drag this out to make it bigger. We could have assignment 1. And in these cells, we'll put in checkboxes. And then for these cells, we could put in a drop down. And our drop down can be that it was turned in on time. We could have turned in late. And we could have like they're absent, and that's the reason why it wasn't turned in. And since this is all for assignment 1, we can merge those cells together. Let's make that center aligned. And then we should be able to just copy and paste. I wasn't pasting, I was bolding. And then merge these together, and then here we could have assignment 2. So just a really quick tracker you could throw together if you wanted to do a tracker this way. Personally, I like just using my roster on paper, not making it complicated, but Google Sheets is a great place to put in a roster. Now, if you want to create a sheet to print, go to your printer or go to print. You'd say you'd want it on the current sheets. You can also select cells, which is what I like to do when they give us our professional development schedule. It's in a big Google Sheet. I like to just select what I need and then go to selected cells so it doesn't try to print out everything. You can change some things like fit to width, fit to height, or fit to page. Your margins you can change up, and then you can have the formatting like show the grid line, show the notes, whatever it is. What I like to do is if I want to be able to print something out, I want to see what it looks like in this view first, and then go back and tweak whatever I have until it is set up the way that I like. Let's say this is on current sheet. I was going to say what I don't like here is that it's landscape, but if you want to change it to portrait, you would just go here. This would be a quick and easy way to print out your rosters for all of your classes. I've been using Google Docs for that, but I think this year I might switch over to Sheets because this would be a lot better, a lot easier, I think, to print out and all that. So maybe I will do a tutorial on that. I just remembered one more thing I did want to show. One thing that drives me nuts is just the amount of cells that you get. If you want to, you can make it look a little bit cleaner, and you can actually get rid of all the extra cells. The columns is pretty simple. Click and drag all the way until Z, right click, and then we can go to delete the columns. Make sure you go to columns because you want to keep the rows. With your rows though, they go on and on and on. So what I do is I start highlighting them, and then I'll go up to this corner here and backspace the last number and set it to 1000 and hit enter. And it's gonna highlight it all the way down to 1000. I can then delete all of those rows, and now they're gone. You can also add rows back in if you'd like. And just real quick, if you ever go through here and like delete a row before you try to delete the rest, if you try to make it go all the way to 1000, it's going to give you this error message. And if that's the case, like sometimes I've been playing around with a Google Sheet for a while, I'll have it instead go up to 990, delete those cells, rows, I should say, and then I'll be able to see the rest, and then I could delete the rest then. So now at this point, I can't think of anything else that I need to share. If you do have questions, please leave them in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.